Welcome to this week's program. We're going to be taking a look at Southland and how they've been doing for the season, and then travel up to the Waikato to see how they have done in recent times. But first of all, let's talk about the impact of the harvest, because it's probably not all good.
Not all good, Rob, and far-reaching and reached right into the future. But some of the things that have been affected, of course, are the planting of autumn crops like clover and ryegrass, for example. A lot of companies wanted those overseas modifications to go in, and the farmers just couldn't clear the paddocks in time, and the seasons beat them. And those ones that got planted, slugs have been a particular problem, really got stuck into some of the, especially the clover, but even thinned the grass seed ones out, so some of that's been lost again. Other things will be the quantity of seed that came off some fields and the quality, and some of that quality is not known yet and probably won't be known until some of those, say, clover and ryegrass crops are dressed and cleaned and the germinations come back, and there's some worrying things there. And so they're the sort of things that farmers have to contend with. They think they've got something worth $10,000 in income, and it can be worth nothing. So that's what happens.
It blows your budgets, doesn't it?
It blows budgets and affects cash flow and eventually profitability, but certainly it will create some shortages and some distortions in the market as well. There's been a lot of autumn sown barley go in where, say, grass seed was going to go in, or wheat, and this has been continually planted up until this last deluge of rain, and so some of that is at quite a risk of being drowned out, especially if it hasn't come through the ground before it's rained on it. And I believe there's some vast acreages still of wheat and barley that haven't emerged that will be drowned out and possibly even possibly rot.
Just on the main road, just south of Templeton, there's a paddock of what looks like oats or some sort of green feed. It's very, very yellow. Would that be because of the rain or because of dwarf virus?
Probably yellow dwarf virus, Rob, but it could even be a rust, one of the rusts, if it's something like...
It's really bright yellow. It looks awful.
Could well be leaf rust, especially if it's oats. And that's where we sort of talk about this green bridge, which is something that harbours disease and carries it from one season to another. If these crops are allowed to stay standing and unfed or unsprayed, and the fungus diseases proliferate and sporulate and the spores go everywhere, we're really steady go when it comes to the spring. And they can also be a great haven for things like overwintering of slugs and aphid in those crops. So we don't want too many of them around for too long, but you have to leave some crops, especially if it's got mixed, like it might have turnips amongst it. You've got to wait for maturity. So we're always going to have some of this green bridge effect, which puts pressure on the, crops in the spring.
Winter spraying, but I guess the paddocks are a quagmire.
Well, they are really. Perhaps some of the second-year clover ones farmers might be able to get on, but certainly there are some chemicals that need to be put on when frost is about, things like 2,4-D on established clover, and curb for taking out particularly hair grass in clover paddocks, or even new clover paddocks need, if there's hair grass about, need something like curb. That can probably go on until about August, and then it gets too late. So,
what about lucerne?
Lucerne, interesting things are happening with lucerne. It's a great crop, looked after properly, and this time of the year it needs spraying for flat and grass weeds, and certainly feeding with fertiliser, because a lot of lucerne fields, the lucerne is carted off the field, so you're taking away a lot of fertility. They do respond in high pHs, so a lot of long-term lucerne growers do build their pHs probably up getting towards 7, but some effects happen if you go out of lucerne, and some things like wheat, you will get trace element tie-up. Things like manganese deficiency will occur if your pHs get much over about 6.2, 6.3, depending on your soil type. And I recently heard of a farm that had a lot of lucerne on it. It was sold, and part of it was sold to a grower who's big in potatoes. That is a no-no. A high pH in potatoes, not good at all. So that's scab.
All right.
And so you have to be, there's negatives and positives. Your earthworm population will explode if you lift your pHs, so that's a good thing. So there's some good and some bad and some consequences down the track that people really need to think about what they're doing and what they're creating.
Wet season, you think of pea root diseases?
Yes, Rob. There seems to be a lot of paddocks that are getting peas in them too often, whether it's because we've got big process growers around here or what, I'm not sure. But once upon a time when partridge peas, the old partridge peas, were huge, and we used to ship them to England for feeding pigeons, places like Darfield and Methven, where they used to plant them in the autumn, and they would grow plenty of straw and plenty of vine, and they're a great crop. Their soils eventually became pea sick, and this Aphanomyces root rot can build up. So if you're planning to do peas in the spring, get that soil tested now, and what they do is basically just grow peas in that soil, saturate it with water, and then wash the roots after a given growing period and score the roots for disease. So you need a lead up of about 6 weeks before you go to plant your peas. So start thinking about those paddocks and get them tested.
From feeding pigeons to problems with birds here in the winter.
Yes, well, birds, as we'll see in a lot of brassica crops, can take up to 50% of a yield, and wheat crops, especially if there's a ridge in the paddock that ripens off a bit early, can be completely wiped out with things like sparrows and linnets. And there's often an opportunity, if we get frosts or snow, to put some poisoned wheat out and just put those birds to sleep. And that's a
very nice way of putting it.
It is. They actually get hypothermia, but it is a humane way of getting rid of birds, and they are quite an economic impact in a lot of crops.
How are we getting on with genetics and disease resistance?
Some interesting things happening overseas, Rob. Some British scientists have discovered really what genes do around resistance. And so we all hear about plant breeding, and we're breeding in a particular gene for the resistance to, say, a strain of rust. And there's a greater understanding now of how those genes actually work. And so with that research, the message will go out to plant breeders and say, well, you know, we think we can enhance this gene by doing this, and we can get more mileage out of this gene if we do this. We understand how it works. If you understand how it works and you can manipulate it a little bit to your benefit, it'd be quite a huge impact, because 15% of the world's food supply is taken away because of fungal diseases, and that's despite the best efforts of all the chemicals and all the spraying that goes on. Like, they have a limited time that they will work, and they're quite a cost, and you have to be back there and vigilant. And so if you can breed it into the plant and not have to do the spraying, good for the environment.
Good for the wallet.
And good for the wallet.
Dennis, thank you very much indeed. After the break, we take you to Southland to talk about what they've been doing, and then it'll be farm accounting. Mainland Minerals have been giving farmers the edge since the 1950s. Sophisticated and very accurate soil tests and a vast knowledge of what the soil needs means those using Mainland Minerals get their costs extremely low while getting the very best results from their fertiliser. Fertiliser application is a science. Get it wrong and you pay. Get it right and it'll pay you dividends. Mainland Minerals, proven over 60 years and one of the best kept secrets in farming. Contact the award-winning guys and turn your property around. Irrigation is the future for farming in New Zealand, but like any technology, you can't be expected to get the most out of it on your own. Hydro Services is the key to maximising your results. On-farm irrigation management, minimising drainage losses, minimising power usage and maximising efficiency. Soil moisture solutions, soil water holding capacity assessments, resource consent applications and on-farm workshops, all there in the one place. Hydro Services, your one-stop for irrigation management and soil moisture measurement solutions.
Pestral has the latest technology that repels rats and mice and even helps control cockroaches. Covers walls, ceilings and open spaces. Combines electromagnetic, ultrasonic and ionic technologies. Harmless to pets and people, just plug it in. Order your Pestral rodent-free today. Now $149.90 plus courier. Order within 20 minutes and get it courier free. Call 0800 88 88 44 or go to pestrol.co.nz.
Welcome to Caltex Redwood. We're a family-owned business proudly supporting our local community. We're open 24/7 for fuel and shop goods, and we have an amazing team of people ready to help you. Save at least 6 cents per litre using AA Smart Fuel cards. We also offer great value on our LPG bottle fills. We have a full workshop and Bridgestone Tyre Centre. Our mechanics and tyre technicians will get your car sorted. Caltex Redwood. We're just down from St Bede's on Main North Road. Caltex Redwood. What drives you?
Potholes. To some, a simple hole in the ground, causing no harm and no concern. But don't let that fool you. Potholes are dangerous. Did you know potholes have been linked to numerous nasty falls and flat tires? So if you have a pothole situation on your property, don't panic. Call the Pothole Repair Company. They'll fix your potholes in a jiffy. So next time you see a pothole on your driveway or in your car park, call the Pothole Repair Company.
We all know the best thing you can do for your body is eat fresh foods in their natural state. The same applies to your skincare. Southern Skin provides a skincare range with fresh, locally sourced ingredients, plus natural preservatives and emulsifiers to produce the best nourishment for your skin to unleash your healthiest complexion. New Zealand olive and aloe skincare for young or old, men, women and children. There is a product in the Southern Skin range for you. southernskin.co.nz.
Welcome back to Rob's Country. Well, obviously we have a very strong association with Southland and Q Television, so it's only right that we find out what's been happening in the far south.
Well, actually, it's a good question, Rob. The season's been fantastic for us, really, in Southland. Not just from a fertiliser perspective, which obviously is a keen part of my interest, but farming in general. The spring started very, very well this year. July, August period, the weather was probably a little bit better than you'd normally get in a Southland spring. Calving went well, lambing went well, and everything sort of flowed pretty well since that time.
Flying in today, there's a lot of water about.
There is. That, to be honest, that's mostly happened in the last 24 hours. Probably lunchtime-ish yesterday, it started to quietly rain, and it just got heavier for the last 12, 18 hours, and most of that water's come in the last 24 hours or so.
Massive amount of feed.
Yeah, I think everybody's reasonably happy. Grass has been good right through the season, and obviously the key thing coming up is going to be winter feed. But because of the good growing conditions all year through Southland, I think everybody's in a pretty good heart in terms of winter feed.
Spent a bit of time today and I had a look at a crop that's going to be doing fifth cut, 22 tonnes a hectare. That's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, and it's probably not the norm for Southland, but I think the message that's probably there is that when the conditions are right, we get regular rainfall, we get good sunshine hours, and just about anything's possible in Southland.
New conversions coming on?
Yeah, there's a few. Obviously, in the last few years, it's been tempered a little bit with just making sure that the type of farms that are being converted are suitable for the dairy land use. And Environment Southland in the last few months has introduced the consents process through that. So it hasn't been just free for all, but yes, still a few going on, and you know, I think a lot of farmers are considering what's best for their future.
I guess you're working closely with Environment Southland and the dairy industry in general.
We are. You know, one of the things, as I mentioned, is just the fate of nutrients on farm, and probably one of the catchments down here that's caught the media attention in the last few years, and more particularly in this season, has been the Waituna area. Pristine and lovely lagoon down at Waituna that's reasonably well known internationally, and it was in danger of flipping, and there's been quite a lot of mitigation work going on. The fertiliser industry, our Balance and our other suppliers in that area have all worked with the likes of Dairy NZ and Environment Southland just to work with the farmers in those areas to make sure that everything that should be done to mitigate those losses is happening.
wee chance for a wee bit of a commercial in here. You guys are working in not just a fertiliser company, you're looking through Seals, Winslow and your other little company to really alter that everything you can.
Yeah, we are. I mean, the feedback we've had from our shareholders over the last few years is, fertiliser is a huge part of our business, but as the dairy industry in particular looks to go to the higher level dairy operations, feed becomes a pretty important part of it. And I guess the other thing that's important, Rob, is the technology. And a lot of the farmers nowadays are needing their information very, very quickly. So the Ag Hub modules that Balance has are around effluent, around water use, a number of those sort of things that farmers need to make reasonably instant decisions on. And Balance is getting into that complete nutrient management space, and I think it's an exciting part of our future, actually.
Because it is actually making sure that everything is utilised properly and well and to the nth degree. I'm talking about the Seals Winslow input there as well.
Absolutely, and up in Canterbury, obviously, in the Ashburton plant there that Seals Winslow have, it's a major feed operation for us there. All of those things come back to helping farmers make a profit. And one of our objectives is obviously to have our shareholders, the Balance shareholders, able to make the best profit they possibly can on their farm.
Winter barns?
Yeah, interesting one. I mean, in terms, certainly from a Southland perspective, one of the key things that I guess farmers will be starting to think about for the future is winter crops, viable in the longer term. So, there's some quite big barns down here now in Southland. I think you've visited one today that you've probably seen, and there's some pioneering work going on with some of those guys, and the outcomes that they produce will be the flow-on effect for other farming operators to say, does this suit me?
The thing that struck me when I went in there, no noise and no smell. Obviously very happy animals.
Very happy animals, and I think that's one of the things that when you're adding up the bottom line may not always show through in terms of the other costs and things that are there, but some of the benefits are obviously the animals are a lot happier, not having to work nearly as hard in the winter to keep condition.
You overlooked the South Island. All very positive?
Yeah, it has been. Balance has found that this season is in probably other areas than our traditional Southland base that we've been in the operation for 50 odd years down here. Certainly in the Canterbury market, we've gone from strength to strength. West Coast has been very strong for us this year, and generally it's been a hell of a good year, actually, Rob.
And the Waikato must be looking over their shoulder saying, hey, listen, what happened to us? Because we're about number 3 now.
Exactly. They're in catch-up mode at the moment up that way. I know they've had the drought and through February, March, and probably early April, but I can tell you that the fertiliser products have been absolutely pelting out the gate in the last month, really. Yeah.
Looking out, looks like we're going to have a very wet, miserable, cold sort of a winter, and then a very dry summer next year. What's that going to do for the South Island?
Yeah, well, I guess if you start to look at some of that El Nino effect that happened, I think the last one was about 8, 9, somewhere around there. It doesn't always augur well for us, so I guess a lot of farmers will start to think, what happened to me in that last occurrence, and should I be starting to plan ahead now and think about, how do I mitigate some of those risks? But I think it'll still be okay. My own gut feel is that things even out over time, and if it's a wee bit tough at the start, it generally comes right at the other end.
Communication with you guys, for example, it becomes very, very important.
It does, and we talked earlier in our discussion today, Rob, about the complete nutrient management. With Balance having the technology now through Ag Hub and the feed side of things through Seals Winslow, there's more than just fertiliser that we can help farmers with. So, yeah, good discussions. For us, it's not just about making a sale; it's about making a decision, helping the farmer make the right decision for them to make profit on their farm.
Environment awards. You guys have been really focused on the environment and sustainability.
Yeah, we are. I mean, Balance has taken this as our key sponsorship for about 10 years now, I think. Might actually be 12, Rob. And one of the key things, I think, and one of the key messages that the Balance Farm Environment Awards shows is to that wider New Zealand community. I think there's a lot of understanding amongst the rural community of just all the good work that's going on, but our urban colleagues, shall we say, in the cities don't necessarily know about a lot of the good things. They hear about a lot of the negatives, but there's some fantastic operations going on, and I think the Balance Farm Environment Awards helps us showcase that.
And dairy farmers have been winning it.
They have. It was interesting that the Southland winner down here in Nithsdale Station in 2014 had both a dairy operation, a genetics operation, and a sheep and cattle operation. So they covered the whole span, really.
And you probably would have guessed that was done not far from the mouth of the Arete, and it was blowing a gale. But that can happen anywhere in the country, really. After the break, we're going to be talking farm accounting. One of the biggest challenges facing anybody is storage, or more to the point, a lack of it. That's where Russell and Rob come to the rescue. Their array of shelving and storage solutions is limitless. They can design and deliver exactly what you need, from shelves for the office, a workbench or storage for containers. These guys are one and only call you need to make. Shelfmart, shelving your concerns about storage.
Hi, I'm Steve and welcome to Carpet Kingdom. At Carpet Kingdom we stock a massive range of carpets, and we're also the largest vinyl stockist in the South Island. And not only do we have an excellent range in store, but you can purchase our stock online. We offer free measuring quotes, we have our own installation team, we ship nationwide, so come on down and see us at Carpet Kingdom, 312 Wilsons Road in Waltham, just off Brougham Street, or visit us online at carpetkingdom.co.nz.
Come on down to Ferrymead Golf. Care for a game of paintball? How about some swings on the old driving range? Or on our par 3 9-hole golf course? Test your skills on the mini golf course or have a go at the airgun shooting range. Then relax at the Wow Cafe with one of our super succulent Wow Burgers. Whether you want to perfect your swing or are looking for a fun family day out, come down to Ferrymead Golf, 50 Ferrymead Park Drive, right next to the Ferrymead Heritage Park.
Yuck, look at all this moss and lichen. I'm not getting up there, not in these heels. Time to call Mossbuster.
Mossbuster is a no-bleach, non-abrasive, biodegradable solution that has over 35 years of proven results. You can buy Mossbuster online for less than half the cost of other well-known products and can be yours for less than $1 a litre. You just spray it on and let Mother Nature do the rest, or Mossbuster can do it for you. Check out our website or call the Mossbuster crew for a free quote. Mossbuster, 0800 88 1000.
Kaikoura, located just 2 hours out of Christchurch. Kaikoura's amazing natural environment is what makes it one of New Zealand's must-see destinations. And the Kaikoura community has recognised the value of their environment as they enter their 10th year of environmental certification in order to protect it. Environmental certification is a commitment by all residents and businesses to act sustainably through having a zero waste commitment, biodiversity, water use and protecting the ocean resources through a coastline strategy. To find out more, visit kaikoura.co.nz.
My son's helped me greatly with my independence now that I've got more mobility.
Mum, I've been looking into stand assist chairs from More Mobility. They recline back with a footrest, then when you want to get out of them, they stand you up. You can even sleep on them. More Mobility can bring one out for a free trial. There's even electric beds too. What do you think? For more range and more expert advice, see More Mobility, corner Clarence and Princess Streets off Blenheim Road.
What a difference More Mobility makes.
Welcome back to Rob's Country. Zero accounting. It makes me wonder what you're going to talk about. That doesn't mean you don't pay any fees.
No, it's the big online accounting provider, Xero. They've previously been concentrating on the business market and they've expanded right around the world. As part of the field days, they've come out and announced they're now moving into the farming market, which is a very, very exciting development for us because we've been waiting for this for a long time.
So what is it? Is it a company or how does
Xero is a big company and they have this subscription-based service where you can do all your accounting work online through an internet browser on your computer. which means that under this new system for farmers, your bank manager, your accountant and yourself can be sitting all around the country and all looking at the same figures at the same time. So you can actually work together with them more. Instead of coming to the office to see your account with a pile of books, we can both be on the phone together and just look up the figures and say, oh, I need this doing, or whatever.
So this is like Skyping. Is it Skyping? Is that what the modern term is?
Yeah, Skyping is the video chatting online, whereas this is the accounting one. The businesses have had it for a long time, and it's been very, very popular, and business people just love it. Now the farmers have been offered this opportunity to do it.
It's the obvious question, how do they cash in? How do they hook on?
Basically, you talk to your accountant and say that you're interested in the farm option. They'll give you the pricing. Most of them will offer the first month free. And then you're into it and you just pay a monthly fee to either your accountant or Xero, and you're up and running. If you stop paying your fee, then that service stops, obviously.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So and they're pretty tight on that one.
Bank managers involved as well, though, you said?
Yep, bank managers, they should be very aware of it. They're all guys, I know a couple of them have been using it, and they've been looking forward to this because now instead of having to travel out to the farm and try and get the farmer to produce something, they can print some figures out in the office and either talk to them over the phone or actually go out to the farm and say, look, your financials are showing me this, we've got a problem, or you're having a great year, and so they can get ahead of the play.
So farm consultants, there's no reason why they couldn't?
Oh, anybody that you've got as part of your farm financial team, you could set them up as an authorised user and they can view your figures anytime, anywhere in the world. So they don't have to be in New Zealand, they could be on the other side of the world. You could be bed asleep and they could be working on your books. So it gives you a lot of freedom and flexibility.
How secure is it?
Very secure. It's been well tested. The person behind it, Rod Drew, who set it up, he's put a lot of effort into the security, and for the years it's been around, it's never been breached yet. So I've got a lot of faith in it.
It's based, I mean, you as a Christchurch company are nationwide anyway, but this is going to make it even more so?
Oh yeah, it opens up everything now. Doesn't matter where a farmer is, we can easily look after them now, which is great. And we've been dying to get into this because there are a couple of products out there already, but this one
is
the
simple Rolls Royce. I can see your eyes are sparkling.
Oh, it's exciting times. Yeah, for an accountant, this is the thing that we've been waiting for. So yeah, we can't wait to get into it.
Good. Okay. And people just contact you or contact?
Yep. Just contact the accountants.
Cash rate?
Yes, the Reserve Bank have come out and put up another 25 basis points, and they've given an indication that they expect to get up to 5% by early 2016. So they've been a little bit aggressive.
Little bit.
The market has been saying that, indicating they weren't expecting to be quite so aggressive, and so they'd been pricing their interest rates accordingly.
Bring back Don Brash.
Yeah, it's a big jump from where we are now. At the moment that was announced this morning, the New Zealand dollar's jumped. Obviously it's been given a favourable response overseas, and
yeah, well it would do because that means people can invest in here and get a big return.
Yes, yep. Especially when overseas they're dropping their rates around a lot of the countries.
So why would we be putting ours up?
A lot of factors is migrants, is the Christchurch rebuild, the housing market of course, still trying to cool that down a bit. He's indicated he may not go quite so hard next time round, but we'll wait and see. But clearly 2016 will be the official cash rate will be around 5%.
There will be those who would say that the only thing that it's doing is making more money for overseas banks.
Yeah, it is. It's as simple as that. It's not really doing anything to the market. It's slowed down the housing market a little bit, which is what he was focused on, but then the new rules they brought in for the loan valuation thing, that was a better option of saying you've got to have 80% equity. That slowed the market down a lot more than what the interest rates are doing. All it means now is people are starting to say, oh, how much borrowings have I got? What's my interest rate, and do I fix or float? So if he puts them up in 12 months' time and people are fixed, it's going to have no impact at all.
So the answer to that would be about as nebulous as you could get. I mean, I don't expect you to say whether you should fix or float.
Yeah, well, the general rule is if the OCR is going up, you should start thinking about fixing, and if it's going down, then you think about floating. But it does come down to what each farmer's got, and the level of borrowings, how quick they want to pay them off, and a whole pile of other factors. So,
because seriously, the last one was a small jump, and I mean, my own mortgage has just gone boom.
Yes. Yeah, the interest rates are going to start rapidly rising, that's for sure. But at the moment, there are some good deals out there because of the way the market were pricing, the fact that they didn't expect it to be quite so aggressive. So if you are thinking about fixing, now would be the time to get into the bank, just as they've been caught a little bit off guard, and see if you can get a good rate off them, because there were some very special deals about.
This is an election year, which basically means that the government doesn't have anything to say about the Reserve Bank, does it?
No, they don't. They're very, very quiet, and they can't.
I mean, for that to happen months away from an election, sorry, buddy, there's no way we're controlling it.
Yes, yeah, no, they're steering well clear of this. They're saying, well, we're independent, and yeah, accordingly.
Interesting thing, on a personal basis, I've just got a letter from the IRD with 2 pieces of paper. One of them's got my earnings and one of them's got the tax that they are holding on my behalf already. They're trying very hard, aren't they?
They're a lot more proactive now. They're trying to make it easier for people to get out there and file their returns. They've seen you one part of it, which is obviously the income side. You've got to think about what your deductions are, which is...
Yeah, I mean, they've said how much withholding tax they've got.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But if I were to put that in, I'd be doing myself in the eye, wouldn't I? Because
yeah, you're missing out on what you may be entitled to, because...
Okay, I mean, yeah, sure. Somebody in my situation has got rocks in their head if they don't go to a chartered accountant. So what are the sort of things that I would need to take to a chartered accountant?
The first step is anything that's related to earning that income. So it could be vehicle expenses, tools, clothing, expenses of having an office at home or work premises, etc. But you've got to look at everything related to that income and what did you actually spend. So even stationery, for example, needs to be factored in.
And, I mean, seriously, you've got rocks in your head if you don't go. Because if I just said, OK, that's my earnings, and the difference being boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, well, then you're missing out on probably what is going to be a refund. Because the reality is you're being taxed at one rate, and by the time you take your expenses, you normally get a refund if you're on withholding tax. And you've basically given the money to the government as a donation, really, if you don't use an accountant to help you.
And they don't even send you a letter and say thank you, do they?
No, they don't, no.
Gary, thank you very much indeed. You always seem to unravel a complicated situation very nicely, so thank you very much indeed. Obviously, nutrition is a major part of anybody's operation, and there's a little wee place called CRT Feed, which is just out of Christchurch, but it's got an interesting history.
Well, this was originally started by McMillan's, the family next door, and they started out of the little garage out the back of their property, and then they had the feed mill down the back, is where they made all the feed for the equine. And then about 11 years ago, CRT brought McMillan's off them, and it became CRT Feed Barn. And then just last year, we've now merged with Farmlands, so shortly we'll be rebranded as Farmlands.
Your main market?
Our main market is equestrian, but we cater for the lifestyle blocks. Yeah.
There must be quite a void of knowledge in some people's minds when they first come onto a small holding and buy a horse, for example.
Yeah. Most people do know what they're getting into when they buy a horse. You can't sort of really just go and buy a horse, but we've got a lot of knowledge here in the equine industry. Yeah, and we've got a reasonable knowledge for the lifestyle blocks as well. And what we don't know, we have definitely got connections that we can get for people if they need it.
You supply a lot of the trainers?
We've basically got Riccarton tied up, the gallopers are all tied up, and we supply most of the trotting trainers around West Melton. We go up North Canterbury.
Now, obviously, there's a sweeping through area, so you can sort of cash and carry. Do you deliver?
We have a delivery service. It's going just about every day now. So it's down to the Riccarton race course on a Monday. Then we do some ton lots out to some adjustment farms and stud farms on a Tuesday. Then we do West Melton, Burnham area on a Wednesday. And then every second week we head to North Canterbury on a Thursday and Friday.
So how do the different feeds differ?
Well, it depends on what sort of area you're in. Like the racing, obviously they have a high performance feed. Then there's the equestrian sort of sport horse, show jumping. They do sort of some more medium sort of feed, not quite so high energy. And then there's just normal
sort
ponies.
Of sustainable.
Just have pony feeds, just a light feed.
And obviously you and the staff are able to help people with that sort of advice and what to put and when.
We have very good staff for the equestrian, obviously. We're all equestrian background, so we can help in most areas with that. And if not, we've got Tracy Moyer, who's she's done papers with Massey, and she's got a lot of knowledge in equestrian and can help more in specialty sort of areas. Yeah.
I guess it's seasonal to a degree.
Very seasonal, like springtime and autumn time with the flush of the grass, so that we're not so busy that time of year, but winter's our biggest season. When it's so cold, you've got to be feeding all your animals.
There you are. The small businesses can do it very successfully as well. After the break, we're going to be talking, I know, we're going to be talking irrigation, but there's actually something else that we want to talk about as well.
BioBrew probiotics are a safe and affordable way to improve animal health and farm profitability. Our products are independently tested for quality by Lincoln University and proven to work through independent trials. We're proud to let our product speak for itself and prove that it works on your farm before you buy. Call us today for your farm-sized free sample.
Christchurch has its very own enchanted utopia, the Hitching Post. Pop in and see for yourself. A magical assortment of handmade creations, custom-made candles and artwork. Choose from our huge range of water features, garden art and imported giftware. Specialists in handcrafted metal artwork made in store. Nestled on 722 Marshlands Road, the Hitching Post, defining art our way.
Blackwells has a proud history presenting leading vehicle brands, extensive backup and service for a total one-stop driving experience. Holden, Mazda and HSV new and used vehicle sales, servicing, parts, paint and panel, Isuzu truck sales and service, all together in one convenient location. More selection, more value, more quality and more reasons to make Blackwells your #1 choice. Visit Blackwells today, corner Waterloo Racecourse Road, Sockburn, or online at blackwells.co.nz.
Come in and meet the locals at the Bush Inn Centre. Whether it's to grab a coffee on the go or to catch up with a friend over lunch or dinner, the Bush Inn Centre is the perfect place. With our unique range of shops, you'll find everything you're looking for and more. Our friendly locals are always happy to help. We have plenty of parking at the Bush Inn Centre, making your shopping experience just a little bit easier. So come in, meet the locals and shop Bush Inn. You'll find us on the corner of Riccarton and Waimarie Roads.
Avoid the monkeys when it comes to relocating. Trust A1 Movers, a family business since 1993 that guarantees a professional job every time. We carefully handle and wrap your valued items, ensuring they have a safe journey. Secure storage and insurance options are also available.
A1 Movers, the careful, caring moving company.
Oi! Ready to go, mate? Flight leaves at 4:30.
Relax, mate. We'll park at Airpark Canterbury.
Airpark Canterbury, privately owned and operated with a free 24/7 shuttle service. Call 0800 Airpark or book online at airparkcanterbury.co.nz.
Have you seen something you like? You can purchase a copy of CTV's own shows so you can watch them again and again. So give us a call on 3777 033 and order a copy today.
Welcome back to Rob's Country. I guess the only part about irrigation is that the aquifers are full.
Yeah, I mean, that is the only thing you can say about irrigation at the moment. I mean, even getting into drill wells. I mean, I know one of the well drillers, they were supposed to go to Low Cliff and they couldn't get on the property. It's just covered in water, so you can't even, I mean, it's quite ironic. There's so much water you can't even drive the drilling rig in there to actually drill a hole. So, yep, the only thing that is a consolation is that we're going to go into the spring, which is not that far away. And we're going to go into the spring and we're going to have really chock full aquifers. I mean, we've got the shallow aquifers and Aquifer 2 sitting at nearly record levels, which means that even though we're supposedly going to have an El Nino spring, summer, we're going to go into it with really, really good water stocks, which will mean that irrigation, particularly from groundwater, won't be too much of an issue at all.
Tony, it's nationwide, this wet?
Oh, it's nationwide. Hawke's Bay is incredibly wet. The last 3 days they have had a lot of rain both in the hills and on the Hiratonga Plains. Ruataniwha has had a lot of water. All the way down, probably Wairarapa hasn't had quite the amount of rain that Hawke's Bay's had. And then if you go into the Waikato, well, we know that everybody's wandering around in gumboots at the National Field Days. It's raining there again today. So there's rain just everywhere, and that top half of the North Island's had a pretty good pasting over the last couple of days. But everywhere down the east coast now has had more than enough rain to see us right until we get into the spring, really. Yep.
As you said, spring's not too far away. Have you got a mark on a calendar when you're expecting to throw the green switch?
Yeah, this year we're looking to be ready to start our monitoring rounds by August the 1st. So we've
That's
said
6 weeks away.
That's 6 weeks away. We looked at the long range forecast. It's still forecast to be El Nino. It has, the weather systems have actually, the Southern Oscillation Index has just tipped a little bit towards the El Nino. It's looking like it's strengthening. NIWA's saying that. If you look at the North American sites, they're talking about El Nino in the Pacific as well, which means that we should go into a westerly cycle at some stage. So that's northwesterlies, warm weather, and we're going to go into that in the spring. So taking that into account, we set ourselves a date of August the 1st that we want to be up and running, ready to go. The last thing farmers want to know when we're providing them with the service is that they should have irrigated.
Past tense is not great in there.
Past tense just doesn't work. I'm sorry, Rob. You turn up there and say, well, actually, that irrigation should be running. Well, you know what they will say.
Yes, and it's unprintable.
It is unprintable. It's unsayable. Terrible English, but yeah. So we've set ourselves August the 1st as our start date. That we're looking to get have everything that we need to have up and ready to go. Yep.
Well, you often said that nature will give and then will stop.
Yep.
So it balances out across the board.
Yeah, averages are averages for a reason. We are a long way ahead of average in terms of rainfall now. I mean, if you look at areas to the west of here, up around the Rangiora and in that sort of area between there and the Waimak and just the other side of the Waimak, they've had an excess of 170 millimetres now this week. And we've even got water lying on paddocks up there that you would normally not see water lying on. You know, there's 500 metres of stones and there's water lying in those paddocks. And it's going to have some ramifications come the spring because the rainfall's been sufficiently intense that anything that has been planted may have struck. It's even worse if it hasn't struck, but it may have struck. What's happened is when you get the rainfalls like we've had now is that you get the fines concentrated at the surface. So the impact of the rainfall brings the fines in the soil to the surface. As soon as it dries out, they just about turn into concrete.
When you're saying fines, you mean the very fine particles?
Very fine particles will come to they just...
Like a silt almost?
Yep. So you'll get the clays and fine silts at the surface. When we get drying conditions, the surface will dry, becomes extremely hard, and I can see I can see some of the old timers thinking, yep, out come the harrows because we'll break that down so that break the surface down so that whatever's underneath there can get through the ground. And it's some time since we've had that sort of circumstance where the surface might have to be broken up, that compacted layer at the surface might have to be broken up so we can get wheats and barleys and those sorts of things up out of the ground.
A couple of weeks of frost will give you frost lift, or that?
Yeah, it won't break down those fines at the surface. Once we've got that dry compacted layer at the surface, it's pretty hard to break down.
So it is harrows.
It will probably be harrows. Yep, yep. And in places where you least expect it. You go down onto the clay country. We've got our Dennis farms and down through the herbal area and Leaston. Common practice down there. You get that really hard layer on the surface. They got a lot more clay in their soils. They get concentrated at the surface and then they go extremely hard. They're really hard compared to what we'll get on the silt loams to the west of us here. But we will still get a layer at the surface after this that could be difficult to get through.
Of course, we're talking about the unknown, aren't we?
We are talking a little bit about the unknown, but when you get the rainfalls like we've had this week, 150, 160, 170 millimetres, and they've been over a short period of time, and there've been some very intense rainfalls, then we're going to get those sort of situations on the top of cultivated ground or ground that has been sown. We've already got a relatively fine surface anyway, and we're just going to concentrate those fines at the surface.
August 1st for you, farmers should, even though it's pouring with rain and they're wearing dry as a bones, they should be out there doing what?
They need to, I think they need to be at the moment, they need to be considering that they need to have their irrigation systems ready to operate somewhere around the 2nd or 3rd week of August at the moment. So that's really only 2 months away, so if they haven't had their servicing done, they better make sure they get their servicing done, because if it goes into El Nino early, then we could be looking at a relatively early start and then a lengthy time of irrigation. So there is no point in starting it up where it finished in the paddock last year. You know, anything that needs to be serviced, repaired, needs to be, even though it's hosing down with rain and nobody wants to be outside in the wet. As soon as it gets dry, we need to get out there and get some of those service jobs done as quickly as possible.
And very briefly, westerly airflows means nor'westers, doesn't it?
Westerly airflow, nor'westers, warm weather. So it'll be, you know, that would mean that it's going to be warmer than average. We'll get soil temperatures up more quickly. You know, instead of like we've had in the last few years where we haven't really kicked over that 10 degree until we've got after just about round when we get the equinox, you know, the 2nd, 3rd week of September. We could be 2 to 3 weeks earlier than that, so we could be seeing that around the 1st of September this year.
1st of September, forgot him. Tony, thank you very much indeed. Well, obviously Mystery Creek's been on this week, so it'd just be totally right, wouldn't it, to have a look at what the Waikato has been doing and achieving and getting.
Certainly is. If you look behind us here, and just by the way, this is called Happy Valley behind us there. And you can see out there a lovely dairy shed and with a feed silo up there as well. But this area around here, if you go back 3 or 4 months, it was brown and probably a bit more like you're used to in Canterbury in certain parts where they haven't got the irrigation. But it's bounced back very, very well because the soil temperatures have stayed up. Starting to get a bit cold now, just in the last week or so. But I think the soil temperatures are still around 13, 14 at the moment. So, you know, the pasture that we've got behind us and the covers that are there are just fantastic going into winter.
People in good heart up here because they were a bit concerned about that dry.
Yeah, I think there's people are starting to change their farm management practices now because, you know, there's been 2 very big dries in the last 2 years. You only have to go back another 3 or 4 years to the last big one before that, and I think people are anticipating there might be another one on its way as well. So they're changing their management practices. There's certainly a whole lot more silage going down. There's certainly people looking at making sure that they've got feed in the system. So that's helped, but also on top of that, I mean, obviously the payout where it is this year. You know, there's a bit of a prediction that might be lower than next year, but it's still pretty high when you start looking at the last 10-year average. So yeah, everyone's in pretty good spirits, I'd have to say.
So this is actually leading into what you guys do with Seals Winslow, about making sure that nutrients are coming on farm in good time.
Oh, definitely, yes. I mean, if you look at it from a balance perspective, you're obviously making sure you've got the feed in the pasture side of it, but also from a Seals Winslow perspective. I mean, we talk about strategic feeding versus tactical feeding. So the dairy farmer behind us that's got that feed silo in there, he's made a decision to invest in some capital to make sure that he's got feed on tap, and he'll be putting it into his cow's feed plan on a daily basis. So when and if the dry does come, he just increases his intake rate. And the cows have more feed there, so he's got more levers to pull than just the pasture. And I guess that's what the whole thing is. It's about planning to make sure that you can manage your way through whatever situation.
Have you noticed more dairies now starting to get in shed feeding?
Oh, very much so. I don't know the numbers, but we're just about to come into Mystery Creek Field Days in a couple of weeks, and the last I heard was that the manufacturers of those in-shed feeding systems are still keeping up from the orders they got last year, and so it's a very familiar sight to look around the countryside and see these in-shed feeding systems here. They're augering the feed in. It's not just the palm kernel, it's the pelletised feed. And if you look at the statistics, that type of product has grown 500% in the last 10 years. So there's a lot more people getting into it.
500% in the last 10 years, and you can bet your bottom dollar they're smoking out at the Mystery Creek Field Days this week. Straight after the break, it's Federated Farmers.
Airtech wastewater treatment systems are the future here now. Easy to use and efficient e-sewage plants are already where the environmentalists are heading. You can relax as new rules come into place. A series of chambers does the work while you reap the benefits. Easy to landscape, they're ideal for new homes or as a replacement for an old septic tank. Airtech wastewater treatment system, your advantage when dealing with grey or black water. See the RX Plastics website for details or contact RX Environmental.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, the naturopath here at Staywell Pharmacy. Working with the pharmacist, I use herbal and nutritional medicine to recommend natural alternatives for your health. This can be to counteract any side effects of your medication, general health advice, or natural options for you and your family. I'm also available for consultations. So come in and see us at Staywell Pharmacy, 27 Shands Road, Hornby. Staywell Pharmacy, live well, stay well.
Our new companion package is a personalised service for those that need extra help and support. A cost-effective solution for someone who needs more than just a taxi driver. Our drivers are hand-picked from our experienced team and specialise in providing the right support and companionship. Home safe every time with Blue Star Taxis.
Do you wear an earpiece or earmuffs? Do you have trouble hearing people or the TV? Do you have itchy ears? Then it's time to clear the air. Their gentle micro-suction technique is not only safe and efficient, but it's also performed by fully qualified, trained, registered nurse. Call for an appointment or Clear the Air can come to you. Need earplugs? We have swim, noise or aeroplane plugs and many more. No referrals necessary. Hear every moment with Clear the Air. Phone 0800 Ear Clean.
Christchurch has its very own enchanted utopia, the Hitching Post. Pop in and see for yourself. A magical assortment of handmade creations, custom-made candles and artwork. Choose from our huge range of water features, garden art and imported giftware. Specialists in handcrafted metal artwork made in store. Nestled on 722 Marshlands Road, the Hitching Post, defining art our way.
Have you seen something you like? You can purchase a copy of CTV's own shows so you can watch them again and again. So give us a call on 3777 033 and order a copy today.
Come dine with Country Catering at the Kaipoi Golf Club Cafe. Enjoy our range of delicious $10 lunches, daily specials and other homemade goodies. Open to the public 7 days inside the Kaipoi Golf Club, north end of William Street, Kaipoi. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Welcome back to Rob's Country. I guess Federated Farmers members throughout the country are talking weather.
Well, we've certainly had a lot of it, haven't we? I was just thinking actually today that, you know, since September 2010, we've just had everything in Canterbury and it doesn't stop.
No.
Fortunately, this one seems to be quite isolated from what we can gather. It really seems to have hung around in the Ashley and Kauai River catchments in North Canterbury in terms of the big bulk of rain, and that's where most of the surface flooding seems to be. So we haven't had any inquiries from farmers or requests for assistance, so we're assuming everything is all right. If that's not the case, then obviously 0800 Farming, and we can set people up with, if you need stock to be moved to high ground or supplementary feed, generators, pumps, anything like that. 0800 Farming.
And even throughout the country, because there'll be pockets that have, in Hawke's Bay, for example, Tony Davern was talking about, could just need a bit of help.
That's right, and I guess the other side, it's always timely to remind farmers, particularly with these things seeming happening one on top of the other, is also the Rural Support Trust for those people who might be feeling a wee bit overwhelmed by it all. Anyone who's worrying about a family member or a work colleague who they think might not be coping particularly well, the Rural Support Trust is there for that long-term help.
Wasn't it lovely Doug Archbold got mentioned in the Queen's Birthday Honours?
That was fantastic and very well deserved from Doug.
Yeah, no, he comes on the programme, but
yes,
not often enough. But that's a good point, Rural Support Trust, because it's very good.
That's right.
Tell me about Overseer.
Well, Overseer is the model that all farmers who are not already acquainted with it need to get themselves acquainted with it fairly shortly. So Overseer is a model that is used to estimate nitrogen nitrate losses from the root zone of your farm. And most councils are using it, or if they're not already, will be using it within the near future as a way to try and manage water quality. So part and parcel of the deal for farmers is that everyone needs to start putting themselves through Overseer. So every farmer in Canterbury needs to be doing it now.
Yep.
And there will be other even if in other parts of the country the regional council's not up to that space yet of having a planning regime in place, the sooner as a farmer you get doing overseer and knowing what your nitrogen nitrate losses are, then the better equipped you are when those rules start rocking out to know exactly how they affect you.
Environmental stuff, it seems as though Canterbury sort of sets up, becomes the template and it goes boof.
Well, a little bit at the moment, that is a wee bit how it works, of course, because with the Environment Canterbury commissioners appointed by the Minister for the Environment, there is that direct link. But this is but it's certainly happening everywhere. I mean, overseer is used in Horizons, Tuki catchment, Ruataniwha, that's just come out as well. It is really important that farmers get hold of it. It's not hard to do, really. It's one of those things that seems a lot more frightening than it is. It's something you can do yourself. You go to Landcare website, www.landcare.org.nz, and you can...
Or just Google Landcare.
Exactly. And you can have a look yourself and have a go yourself if you want to, or otherwise just about all the main fertiliser reps will do an overseer budget for you. Some of them are doing them for nothing. That might depend how much fert you buy, I'm not sure.
Not being cynical at all, but
most farm advisors, or a lot of farm advisors, will do it. Irrigation schemes, if you're part of an irrigation scheme, a lot of those are doing overseer as well. So you don't have to do it yourself if you don't want to. You can get someone in to help you do it.
Which wouldn't be bad just to get somebody beside you to do the first few.
Yes, and certainly you do need to be reasonably computer savvy, and the other big thing for farmers is that you need to have your farm information. So you need to be able to provide lots of information for it about your soil types, your water, what you're running on farm, what you're growing on farm, what fertilisers you're using, and also what your production is. So, you know, your live weight gain, your wool weights if you're sheep and beef, or your milk production. Most dairy farmers will be pretty familiar with overseer because it's been part of the package, particularly if you're supplying Fonterra for quite a wee while. But for sheep and beef farmers and arable farmers, it's a new thing.
That sounded like quite a list, but in fact it's information that people have got at their fingertips anyway.
It is information that you probably do have at your fingertips, but it's that usual story. You know, it's when you go through it for the first wee while, it can take a couple of hours.
It's like me trying to do my GST.
Exactly, it's a little bit like that. So, you know, getting that information together at the start is a good thing. Federated Farmers, we're running in North Canterbury, we're running a series of workshops over the province over the next few months where we actually put a farm through overseer, and all farmers are of course welcome to come along and see how it works and what happens.
And I would assume that other branches will follow, as indeed when their regional councils start getting...
Absolutely. Well, we've unashamedly copied Mid-Canterbury.
Thank you, Mid-Canterbury.
Thank you very much, exactly. And it was very well attended. So, yeah, I'm sure that as we move through, more and more of this will start happening.
So really it's a case of not if, it's when, and watch the space and start getting up to speed now.
Absolutely, and it is a case of when rather than...
Not if, it's when. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Linda, thank you very much indeed. So there's the trick, because if you're 3 steps ahead of your regional council, they won't have a problem with you, or you with they. Phone numbers that you'll want to jot down on your screen now. I'm Rob Cope-Williams. You've either been watching or you have just missed Rob's Country, but I will be back at the same time next week. Until then, bye now.